Hello and welcome back again to another episode of Jerks Talk Games, where myself, Gary Hockin, and my good friend Chris Tankersley. Say hello, Chris.
Hello.
We talk about games we've been playing, and this week, I guess, is a special edition where we talk about pet hates in games. So mechanics or things about games that are driving us up the wall, as we say in the UK. So we've got a few of our own pet hates, and we've got some contributions from the Slack hangout and from Twitter. So really looking forward to this. But before we start, how are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing very good. Been busy. Been doing a lot of non-PHP stuff. But otherwise doing good. How have you been doing, Gary?
I am also busy doing real work now. Only a part-time developer advocate, so I'm actually doing real coding again, which I forgot how difficult and exhausting that can be. But I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, really good. So have you been playing anything different since we last spoke?
I have picked up Mario Odyssey, and that game is amazing. So, which just confirms the fact that dropping all that money out of Switch was actually a good idea.
For you, maybe, yeah.
But yeah, pretty much I bought Mario Odyssey the day it came out, and I've been playing that nonstop. So just pretty much every game I get for the Switch at this point, I just play nonstop till the next one comes out.
Yeah, you seem to be getting, you seem to be fully bought into that whole console, right? So I
am a Nintendo shill at this point.
I'm very jealous. I don't play it nearly enough. Obviously, we've got a trip next week where Chris and I will both be in PHP World in Washington DC. So come up and say hi if you're there. So I'll definitely be playing some Switch, during that traveling period. But I've been mainly getting incredibly frustrated over PUBG some more. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Also, I finally found Deus Ex Mankind Divided available. So it was available for £12, about $15, I guess, which was the game and all the DLC so far.
It was on like that game dropped in price really, really quick after.
This is the powerful thing about Steam, right? Add it to your wish list and they send you an email when it's down in price. So I was just thought, right, I'll just stick that on my wish list and come back to it when I finally, when they email me, and I'm glad I did because I'm really enjoying it. I think the reason it was panned when it came out was it was rushed and the story was basically half of the game. They just sort of stopped and then said, right, if you want to keep playing, you have to buy the DLC, which was why it was kind of panned, which comes on very nicely to our topic, but we'll come back to that. Of course, when you buy something 6 months later and you buy it as a bargain basement discounted price with all the DLC, then you don't get that problem anymore. So
no,
that's the kind of way to do it. It's really good. I'm really enjoying it. It's more of the same if you've played that series. It's not a big it's evolution rather than revolution. It's really good. I'm glad it's similar to the other games because I really enjoy playing them. So good fun.
Cool.
So we have a list of things that we dislike in games. I guess you can go first, and we'll just go through them.
Okie dokie. So this is one that I've been dealing with lately with the Shadow of War game, and I was pretty well sold on the game when I first got it, and probably the first 10 or so hours, and then it really just became repetitive. It's constant, just do the same thing over and over and over in games that you don't necessarily get a whole lot out of. So Shadow of War, and I don't remember it being this bad in Shadow of Mordor, you're constantly just killing more and more orcs. You're doing the same little tiny missions over and over and over and over. And you do get, loot and stuff out of it, which is okay. Like I've gotten some pretty nice weapons and stuff out of it. But after a while, you want to do something else. Yeah. And I mean, this is by I've only, like, I was feeling this way by the time I was in like the second area. So like just having games where it's just repetitive, do the same thing over and over and over. And this kind of bleeds into fetch quests too. Like, why do I have to go get you 10 wolf pelts? Especially when those things are really, really hard to find.
let's be honest, what you're talking about here is every MMO ever, right?
Yeah, pretty much. This is why I don't play most MMOs.
And also, another settlement needs your help.
Oh, they can die. They can fuck off and die.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't need to listen to you, Preston. I don't need to impress you anymore.
It's really weird because there are some games I would play, and I do find that the quests get repetitive real quick. But when I'm playing an MMO, I kind of expect it. I'm the person who really enjoys the journey in an MMO. I weirdly enjoy the grind in an MMO, and once I get to the max level, I'm like, oh, I'll roll another character now because I don't have any interest in the high end content. I like the journey and the progression. But
yeah, and I mean it's not so much like grinding because like I'll play RPGs and stuff and I will grind in those, and there'll be times where it's just like I'm gonna just grind a couple levels because I don't want to do anything super involved right now. I've only got like a half hour to play or whatever. Those I don't mind so much as just like everything you do is just go get me 10 of this, 5 of this, 6 of this. And there's like no good reason in game why you would do that.
Yeah, I get you.
So it is most MMOs, but like that it just feels really annoying. If you're gonna have me go get something, give me a reason as to why I have to go get this. Or like Skyrim and Zelda do this pretty well, where it's like go get this one item and bring it back because it makes sense why you're gonna go get this one item.
And this item happens to be at the bottom of a dungeon. Yeah, that's
right. that I'm fine with.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I am agreeing with you or not with this. I don't know. So I can imagine if I'd been playing Shadow of War, this would really annoy me in that kind of context. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely some games I've played where the quests, I mean, as they say, Preston Harvey, right? Whatever his name is from Fallout 4. Yeah, I did like 2 of those quests and then I'm not doing this anymore because that is, run halfway across the map and kill some bandits and then run back to me is not my kind of...
There's a reason I left people with big giant guns and turrets everywhere, Alex. So you don't need my help.
That's exactly right. So I totally agree. If we're going for another settlement needs your help, then I'm signed up for that. But yeah, I guess MMOs having to, run around an area where wolves spawn and pick up 10 of their pelts is the staple of that kind of game. It wouldn't be much of a genre without those fetch quests. So I can't agree wholeheartedly, but hey, that's fine. I don't think we ever agree wholeheartedly. So that's just normal. So yeah, I'll go for one of mine, and I've said I recently bought Deus Ex. I don't know if I pronounced that even close to being right, but that's the way I'm going to say it. And the amount of time it takes from double clicking on the icon on my desktop to actually being able to start playing the game drives me insane. So. Mm-hmm. First of all, I double-click the icon, and then maybe I'll run to the bathroom, go and get a cup of tea because I'm British, go and get a drink or a snack, and then I'll come back to the computer, and there's this little pop-up that says, what do you want to do? Play the game, settings, visit the website. I'm like, if I've double-clicked that icon more than once, I want to play the game. Like, don't ask me what I want to do, is my number one.
It's even worse when you have to go into Steam, launch the game, then you get the game launcher. Then you have to get into the game.
Oh, God,
like every single Paradox game, pretty much.
And then I actually took written notes, so I'm showing them for Chris. I'm prepared for this episode because then you get the obligatory video introductions of the technology and the publishers. So you get, in this instance, you get AMD comes up. AMD, a little 5 to 10 second video. Then you get one for Square Enix. Then you get one for Eidos Montreal. Then you get one for Nix's. Then you get one for Dawn Engine. Then you get one for Deus Ex Universe. So you get 6 of these publisher videos, technology videos coming up before you even get to the damn in-game menu. And they're unskippable. Now, I know there are some games where you can add like a switch to the launcher command in Steam to skip those videos. I haven't looked yet. I will definitely do that. But geez, let us play the games. It's so frustrating for me. I just like, I've got 10 minutes before I need to go out. I just want to play a game for 10 minutes. And it takes me 3 minutes to get into the damn thing is so frustrating.
Well, in the worst case is, like, the game's not even loading at that point. Like, a game like Crusader Kings 2 takes forever to load, but, like, you can see it loading up a whole bunch of crap. It's not advertisements for all this technology, as opposed to stuff like that, where it's like, here's all of the things we bought because we didn't want to program it in-house.
And it genuinely can take like 2 to 3 minutes before you get to the actual in-game menu, where then you click continue, and then the game starts loading. I don't care if a game...
And then you have loading times in the game.
But if the game takes 3 minutes to load because it says, oh, you've got, 16 gig of RAM, I'm going to fill that up with as much stuff as I can to make the actual game as fluid as possible, so I'm going to load a ton of stuff now, I'm fine with that. But, let me get to that point quicker than 3 minutes, jeez.
Yes. I completely understand that. Kind of along those same lines are unskippable cutscenes.
Yeah,
Like
that's
every
another one.
Single Metal Gear Solid game.
That's another one in our list. Unskippable cutscenes again. Like, I think if you've listened to these podcasts, you understand that I'm not somebody who, like, some good friends of mine will play through a game, be it an MMO, an RPG, a first-person shooter, whatever, puzzle game, and they'll enjoy the story aspect of the game. They'll read every bit of lore they can find in Skyrim, every book they'll have a little read and thoroughly enjoy that. Me, I just mash the spacebar until my quest indicator tells me what I've got to do, right? Oh, okay, I've got to go here and kill that. Brilliant. So, unskippable cutscenes for me are another kind of evil pain that... I guess I don't mind unskippable cutscenes if they are incredibly pertinent to the plot. And it's the first time I play through the game. I don't mind that.
I would argue that with... It's always nice to have the option to skip the cutscene, because it's really hard to tell whether it's the first time you've ever actually played a game.
Yeah.
So one good example is so Mario Odyssey. Whenever there is a cutscene that pops up, you can't skip it. Now, if you've watched it once, that's cool. But when I'm playing with my kids and they have no interest in the cutscene, we have to sit there and rewatch it, even though they've watched it already, watching me play the game. So there's no way to go in their save and skip past the thing.
I don't know why this is genuinely one of the few... I understand the fact that if the game manufacturers buy technology to play MP3 audio, then they are probably contractually obliged to advertise that fact in a 5-second video. I don't like it, but I understand it, right? I do not understand the logic between why game makers would not allow you to skip cutscenes. Is it pretension? Is it like, oh no, the story's really important, you should listen to the story, you shouldn't be allowed to skip? Is it that, or is it laziness?
I think that is a very large part of it. Because I can completely see Hideo Kojima being like, hey, you have to watch all of this because I spent 12 years coming up with this convoluted storyline. Yeah. And if I had to think about it, you have to think about it too. Like, I completely see that being a thing. I would just love a button where I can skip through all of that, because maybe I've played Metal Gear Solid 3 or 4 times and I don't want to have to sit through the half-hour cutscene at the end of Metal Gear Solid 2.
There's and some games will have like an intro as well. They'll have a 5-minute intro from the first time you fire up the game. I've already said it takes you 3 minutes to get menu.
So this was Mario Odyssey. We sat down. I played through the first time through. It's like, oh, cool. There's a cutscene at the very beginning of the game. Only takes a couple minutes, but it's there. So then my oldest son decides he wants to play. We have to sit through that cutscene on his save game. Then my youngest son, a little while later, is like, hey, I want to try it. We have to sit through that cutscene again. There's no way to skip that 3-minute cutscene. And it's just annoying because we have all seen this cutscene. It's not brand new content. Now, if you in any of the cutscenes of Mario, if you die and you have to go through it again, you can press plus to skip through it. But the first time through, you have to sit there and watch that cutscene.
It's dodgy, right? I mean, some of particularly those, if we're going to move on to like introduction videos, smacks of laziness. An unskippable introduction video says to me, yeah, we know we could have made some kind of basic tutorial to introduce you to all of this information. but we just decided to record a video instead. You know, like because games like Mass Effect do that kind of thing really well without a video. They introduce you to the law of the universe and where you are by giving you a tutorial saying, walk over here. Oh, pick up and read the log that's on the desk. You know, that's an interactive. I mean, you still have to play through that shit if you start again, which can be frustrating. But it's not half as frustrating as a 5-minute unskippable video. Jeez.
No, or a tutorial that you can't skip. Like, I would love it if games just said, because I remember this in some older games where it's like, do you want to do the tutorial? No, because I have played this game before. Because you expect this game to have some replayability, so I'm going to skip this. The Zelda Skyward Sword, you have to do all of the little tutorial thing showing you how to do all the moves.
Yeah.
If you're not precise on every single one of those, like, you have to do the whole thing again. And it's like, I know how to play this game, like, but I don't want to hit that 2-pixel hitbox on this stupid log just to satisfy that, yes, I know how to play this game.
The best games, like Breath of the Wild, their tutorial doesn't feel like a tutorial. They're gently introducing you into the concepts, but they're very much a level rather than being a tutorial. So
yes.
And the other thing was, and I can't remember this game, but I'm sure your brain of all knowledge. I remember I think it was the PS2, the driving game, where I couldn't even do the damn. You had to do like a figure of 8.
Stuntman, probably. Stuntman. It's either Stuntman or Driver, one of the two.
And I couldn't.
Where you're in the parking garage.
Yeah. And
you
had to be able to do like 6 laps without hitting anything, and then figure of 8, and then the slalom through the. I was like, I couldn't even do that. I'm like, I never got to your damn game because your tutorial was too hard for me. But
that was either Stuntman or Driver, and I remember the frustrating it, or like you do it, but then it's like, oh no, you clipped. You clip the pillar, and it's like,
start again. Yeah. I think it was Driver. It's on PS2, I'm fairly sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
that was one of those games I rented and then didn't actually play because
my housemate managed to do it, so we just both used to use his save to play the game because I couldn't have the patience to do it. It's all good.
Yes.
So, I guess you can move on to your next point here.
Sure. Let's talk about invisible walls. So I'm just going to pick and choose from the list. So especially with the advent of open world gaming, they can't make every single little bit of an entire world. Like, I totally get that. But invisible walls that just come out of nowhere are just some of the most annoying things to pop up. It's like, I should be able to go this way, but I can't. Fallout New Vegas, while I love the game to death, just has invisible walls in the stupidest places. And they're only there to stop you from skipping over content.
Yeah.
You know, like, there are places where there are 2 boulders you can clearly walk through, but you can't because there's an invisible wall. Skyrim's not so bad. Most of the invisible walls are up really high because they just ring the entire area with mountains. But, like, I just remember playing New Vegas constantly and being like, I'm just going to go over this hill. No, I'm not. Because an invisible force field has shown up.
I'm guessing a lot of the points we make today are going to come down to developer laziness, right? And as developers who are lazy ourselves, I completely understand. So I guess we both agree that having invisible walls is unavoidable in a game because with all the playtesters in the world in a game the size of New Vegas, somebody is going to manage to jump on a rock that perhaps they shouldn't have jumped on and then get out of the game world or something. So boundaries, having invisible walls as a backup to unseen things happening, you know, something crashes that allows a player to jump on it and onto something else, it's fine. You know, I'm not saying
then put a set piece there that stops me from going through it.
No, I totally agree. But when you can clearly see a gap between 2 boulders, it's just laziness that they couldn't be bothered to put another bigger boulder in between there to stop that happening. You know, players will jump onto things and get into areas of a game they're not supposed to, and invisible walls can stop that. But if you're trying to cheat the system, then an invisible wall is not really going to annoy you as much as when you can clearly see, oh, I can run through there. Oh, why am I just running on the spot? And weirdly, the game that I panned when it came out for this only had it in one level, which was Doom, which is, it really annoyed me on the third level, I think. Or maybe it's the first level proper, yeah. Where, obviously, Doom is all about jumping around to try and find the hidden secrets, right? Mm-hmm. That is a fundamental part of Doom, is to say, oh, it looks like if I ran from over this side and I could jump that gap and get onto that ledge. That's part of the game, is to find the secrets. So one level had invisible walls that really, really annoyed me because they encourage you to explore and find hidden parts. So the laziness of adding hidden walls. Now, I didn't see it in any of the other levels, to be fair. It was only this one level. But that really, really annoyed me at the time. I was like, geez, that you encourage me to explore and find secrets, and then you don't even design your levels so that it's all, I can get up there. Why can't I run across there? That's so bad.
And then you contrast that with a game like Mario Odyssey, where it seems like they decided people are going to try to break this game. So there are places where unless you try really, really hard to break the game or do something you're not supposed to, you're not going to get there, and there will be piles of coins there to reward you. So
which is great.
Up on really tall walls where a normal player would look at that and say, this is, I can't go past here. This is the edge of this level. They will let you, glitch your way up to the top, and it's like, oh, there's something there. Or there's a hugely impossible jump. If you can make that somehow, they will reward you for that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is fun. But invisible walls in the middle of the game world, just...
No. I wholeheartedly agree. It's laziness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Total laziness. And yeah, who'd have thought, Bethesda? We're looking at you.
And they can't use the excuse of we were trying to reduce glitches, because
no, indeed.
When my horse swims through the floor,
yeah,
no,
indeed. That's, all horses can swim through the floor. It's fine.
Weird European horses.
So, yeah, I guess some of these we'll get on to the user submitted ones. We'll just finish. We've got a couple more. So I've touched on the fact that I have no patience when I play computer games. I just want to get straight to the action, and I guess a lot of my picks are showing that frustration. But I'm playing Deus Ex, but there's many games with this mechanic where it's totally fine for you to complete a level or a section of, we don't get levels so much anymore. But, let's look at Hitman as an example. You can complete, there's a level-based system in Hitman. It always has been. You can complete the level, and it's totally fine. You could shoot every NPC on that level if you had enough ammo and the inclination, and you could still pass the level. That's fine. But you get huge bonuses for being stealthy. Now, I guess in Hitman, the mechanic is you're the silent...
Hitman, it makes sense.
Totally
because
you're
does. Literally trying to be as silent as possible.
Exactly, totally. But when I'm playing Deus Ex, there's these huge bonuses to experience if you're stealthy. Yet they promote the fact that it's completely fine to be, to be the aggressive, sort of noisy intruder. So I don't know why. I guess it's because it's more difficult to be stealthy. Well, but actually it's not.
So, and I think with Deus Ex, they've never made the happy medium of the first game, which the first game let you either run in guns blazing or find the stealthy option.
Yeah.
And you could complete the level and everything was cool. Then they did the one that came out on the 360 the first time that I can't remember what the name of it is.
Human Revolution?
Yeah, human.
The last one? Yeah.
Yeah, the one before this last one. Where they it's Deus Ex, you could stealth through stuff, but you actually couldn't when the game came out. They had to go back and rebalance the game so that you could, so people threw a fit. It's you can't do stealth mechanics in a game where stealth was one of your major options. So then when the new one came out, I think they swung the other way too much and said, well, everybody clamored about the lack of stealth, so we're going to give you bonuses if you do stealth, but we're not going to reward the players who do want to go in guns blazing. Because you're right. It's unfair to say, hey, do it this one way, but we're going to give you the option to do either. But one way is clearly going to give you more rewards than the other.
And some of the levels I've played so far, stealth is actually the easier option because it's damn hard. I mean, I'm playing it on the hardest difficulty, but it is the enemies are challenging. It's much easier to sneak around them than it is to actually take them down. If you've got the patience for stealth mechanic, which I clearly don't. Like, I am not going to sit there for 3 minutes noting the guards' walking patterns so that I can perfectly stealth through. Now, I'm sure some people find that incredibly rewarding, obviously, because there's a number of stealth them up franchises that is effectively the game, right? Metal Gear Solid for a while was fairly full-on stealth, right? It was like,
that's another one, like, Hitman. You're the point of that is to be a person that is not stealthy.
And that's fine. And some people, I can imagine some people with minds much more patient than mine find that really rewarding. Me, I'm not going to sit there and take note of guard patterns for 90 seconds and then wait another minute for those patterns to rotate around. I ain't going to do that, and I think that in Deus Ex, it's harder on some levels to be guns blazing than it is stealth, yet the stealth option still gets the reward, which really frustrates me. So it's fine. It's very much a personal niggle, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. If you're gonna provide the option, both, you should have similar rewards for both sides.
Yeah, I want I don't know if you ever played Borderlands 2 expansion, the Torg expansion, but I want, like, boom bonuses when you do massive amounts of damage to a place. It should be like, nobody alive behind you. You get a big bonus, as well as everybody's alive behind you. So
I couldn't get into that franchise because I played it on the Vita first, and that was the wrong experience for that game.
Oh, it's a great game on PC. As far as a little aside, as far as co-op games go, Borderlands 2, we've never, myself and my friend Ian, we've never completed the prequel. Actually, we definitely should go back to that because I really, really like that franchise. Really good fun to play co-op. Cool.
I should probably pick it up.
Yeah, you could probably pick up like all 3 for pennies now, and I'd happily play through again. So
okay, well, so the next one I'm going to mostly complain about is Day 1 DLC and pre-order bonuses.
Yeah.
Because if I'm paying $60 for a game, or in the case of Shadow of War, $100 for a game, why am I not getting everything? So I'm gonna go back to Shadow of War because this is turning out to be the perfect example of why the hell was this game ever made. Shadow of War, you spend $60, you don't get all the game. You get a base game, but you don't get the rest of it. You have to buy. You can buy the silver version of the game, which gets you a couple extra orc tribes, but that's still not all of them. You have to go up to the gold edition to get all of them, and then you have all the different orc tribes. But then that still doesn't get you, like all the season pass DLC. So I don't know if this is going to turn out to be a game where, like, I can definitely tell, like, they locked content away behind stuff. But supposedly this happens with the new Assassin's Creed. GameStop literally had a commercial that said if you do not pre-order this game, you are missing content. Because there is content gated behind pre-order bonuses. And I do not understand why I have to spend $60 on a game and have content gated away.
And then the publishers have the cheek to moan about piracy levels of games, right?
Exactly.
And look, I'm privileged enough these days to be able to basically, I've got enough disposable income. I can just pay for games I fancy. I often wait because of this problem. I'll very rarely buy stuff. So let's set this out there. DLC is not bad per se, right? If I've played a really, really good game and I've thoroughly enjoyed it and I've played, I don't know, let's pick a number at random. Let's say I played 50 hours of a game, completed it, thoroughly enjoyed it, and then 3, 6, 9 months down the line, another 20 hours of content is available, exactly the same engine, same game, no game updates, but just more content for $20. I'm like, hooray, brilliant, because I really enjoyed that game. Now I get to play it some more. I have no problem with that at all.
No. But see, we used to call those expansion packs.
We used to call them
content.
We used to call them expansion packs, and that is what I'm talking about, are expansion packs rather than DLC. Because what is flummoxing to me is that I can buy Deus Ex, one of the most recent games I bought. That's the only reason I keep going back to it. So it's fresh in my memory. Had maybe 4 different versions. Given that Deus Ex has no online play at all, not co-op, not PvP, not there's no online content. One of the passes, I believe, was for some new clothes to wear when you play through the game in single player mode. I'm like, who's even paying for that? Who is
People
even
who like
paying?
to play dress 'em up. You need to play Super Mario Odyssey. Playing dress up is actually really fun.
And I absolutely, I understand, again, that some people like to sort of personalize the character, whereas I just whack random and then get on with the game. But I know that I'm not typical of everybody, but I just don't understand why you'd pay $10 for a different coat to wear in a single player game. I just don't get it. And of course, it is horrible when you've bought the game and realize you've only got like half of the content. Is the pits, right?
Yeah, that I think is the worst, when you can't get like the real ending of a game without actually getting the DLC. Which I think Mass Effect Andromeda had this problem, correct? Like the end of the game of the base game is not actually the end of the game. Like there was going to be extra content in the DLC that actually finished out the game, right? I don't remember. I didn't actually play it.
I never completed it. And I should go back to it. It was one of those games where I wouldn't say I got bored of it, but other things came out that that attracted me more. So I thought, I'll go and play that and I'll come back to this, and I've never come back to it. I will go back to it because it was a reasonably good game. It wasn't great, but it was reasonably good.
Yeah, so I feel like that was one of the complaints about that, was that either one of the storylines or the main storyline, you don't get closure to that until you buy the DLC. That is much different to me than like let's say like the Skyrim or the Fallout DLCs, where you have a good base game and they add stuff on top of this. Horizon Zero Dawn, I think, did this properly. From what I've heard, I've been waiting till the Game of the Year edition comes out. But you play through the base game, and that's it. Then they have an expansion that you can get through DLC, and it is like an expansion pack. Here's 20 more hours of gameplay in a new area. Have fun. It doesn't affect the original base game. It doesn't do anything special, unlike let's say the WWE games, where you have to pay for the season pass to get all the DLC content. Most of the DLC content, you don't actually get all the DLC content to fill in the rest of the roster. They took the time to make these things. Why not? If you need to get your money back on the game, sell the game as more expensive, but still make it worthwhile. If it's a good game, people will pay extra for it.
I totally agree.
Don't do this song and dance of, well, we're gonna put the base game out there for $60 and play the drug dealer angle where we're gonna get you in cheap, but then hey, you gotta go spend all this extra money on DLC. Like that is enough to completely turn me off a franchise entirely.
I wouldn't buy a game if I'm not saying I wouldn't buy a game, because I've done it with Deus Ex, but it came down to being, so the pack I bought last week for around about £15 UK is now is back up to £65 UK. I just wouldn't pay it. I absolutely wouldn't pay it. Fact. Because you can't really, the £40 version, which is, so you've got the normal version, and then you've got the normal version's £40. This is £65, which is the digital deluxe version.
Yes.
which has the season pass, which is nice because you get like the extra DLC if they bring it, the extra expansions, let's say, if they bring it. But it's got Desperate Measures, extra in-game mission, and Covert Agent Pack, which means you get like extra credits and stuff. You get basically it makes the game slightly easier at the beginning, but screams to me they haven't balanced the game. If they can just give you 1,000 credits at the beginning, then they haven't made any attempt to balance the early going of that game. And it comes with 2 DLC. The killer thing for here is the 2 new story DLCs are basically 2 expansions, which are fine. I got no problem with that. But it's the Desperate Measures extra in-game mission that is the thing that sucks. That really annoys me. Because how can you just add an extra mission to the existing world? I don't know. I don't know how they get away with it.
No, which means that they spent time planning that in the pre-planning of the game. Like, I get if a game comes out and they're like, oh, hey, people really like this, let's make some extra missions that they can throw in. But when you sit down in a design meeting and you say, here's what we're going to put in, and then someone says, oh, well, what if we just make them pay extra for these other couple things? And they say, oh, yeah, we'll work on that and then sell it as ancillary. Like, that really bugs me.
I mean, typically in this franchise, the expansions will take place in a completely separate map from anything you've played before. So you'll go to open a door, which will give you it'll take you out of the immersion a bit, but will say, this is good. Do you want to continue? This will start the prison escape DLC. Are you sure you want to continue, or do you want to continue through the main? And if you click yes, you'll wake up in a shipping container where you can't remember how you got knocked out and got put in the container, and that's the expansion, right? That's great. That's fine. It's an aside to the story that's self-contained, and you can do any time you want during the the campaign you're doing is great. 2 thumbs up for that approach. But yeah, totally agree. I mean, it's no surprise that the gaming industry is bigger and more profitable than both the movie industry and the music industries now, right? when they can, it's the gift that keeps on giving, gaming, isn't it? It's
if movie companies could figure out a way to get DLC in the theaters, that they would do it.
Yeah, but there were 3 Lord of the Rings films, right?
Yeah, there were 3 Hobbit films.
Do you know that is effectively DLC, right? We could make one.
Lord of the Rings. They had to cut stuff out.
I agree.
They made the wrong choices, but they cut stuff out.
The
Hobbit, there was no way they could stretch that into 3 movies.
But yeah, there was.
Well, they somehow did it. Yes.
So that's the equivalent of DLC, right? It's like, we could easily fit this into a 2 hour 15-minute movie, but hey, we're going to stretch it out into 3 90-minute movies instead. It's fine.
It's fine. Everything is fine.
Cool. So I guess we're doing okay for time. That's ours. Let's quickly run through the pet peeves of our amazing listeners. Apparently, people do listen to this podcast. It's not just you and I rambling for our own amusement. So that's God. Nice. That's nice to know. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll come on to Emily, who's a long-time listener and sits in our Slack channel, which you can find information on at jerkstalkgames.com. I mean, this goes back to the same kind of thing that we're talking about with DLC, but even more annoying. So, pay to play, time management, and microtransactions. So, I guess we're talking about. I would imagine we're talking about more sort of mobile type games. Which
probably
is
like Simpsons and Futurama, which I cannot play.
Which is the next evolution of the old Facebook game. For me, having a foot in that camp and having worked on a Facebook game, I know all about the techniques to try and make you play. So there's a thought that if you got a free to play game, effectively a free to play product, what you're not trying to do is to get somebody to sit down and play through all your content in 10 hours straight in one day. You may have 10 hours of content. When somebody's splashed $10 for that, it doesn't matter if they play through it in one day or if it takes them a month. It doesn't matter. But when you're given a free-to-play product, it's incredibly important to eke that content out as long as possible, because you're not making any money. Therefore, you don't want them to play through it all in one go, which is why you have these time management systems in place. So, right. And there's also was a lot of research from Zynga, who were the big Facebook game franchise that you don't even hear of anymore. So they made games like Mafia Wars on Facebook, Farmville, the really big games from, I guess it'll be like 7 or 8 years ago now. That's how fast time has gone when the original Farmville was a thing. Is it 5 years ago?
Well, so I remember they were they actually had a booth at ZenCon 2008, 2007. One of those years. So we're talking about... I have a notebook from then. So that was right before they did their massive hiring.
So we are talking 10 years ago, realistically, which makes me feel even more old. But they did a ton of research around this, and they found out that the best way to keep people playing is to try and make the game fit into their life. So play 5 minutes with your breakfast, then go to work, maybe play 5 minutes in your coffee break, then maybe 5 minutes at lunchtime, 5 minutes in your afternoon coffee break, 5 minutes with your dinner, and 5 minutes just before you go to bed or whatever. So try and parcel out. And the trick was to keep people coming back to play, which is why most of these games will spam you when your energy is recharged enough that you can come back and play. That's the whole point. So I understand this. And adding in So the way that they then decided to try and monetize the game was to say, well, if you want to have a half-hour play session, that's going to cost you a couple of bucks. It's going to cost you... You can play for... You've played your 5 minutes. There's 2 ways that you can... continue playing because you're enjoying yourself. You can either spam your friends to try and help us get more revenue by getting more players. So typically in Facebook and in mobile platforms, they'll allow you to connect to things like Facebook and Twitter and spam your friends. And if players respond, you'll get some extra time to use then or later on, or you can pay real money. So that you're either going to advertise for us or you're going to give us money. Third way that came in is you could watch a video or do a survey or do some other kind of way to get them revenue. But really, that's the way it works. So it's a really clever business model, and it is totally tied around free-to-play stuff. It is very much a business model for free-to-play, which is why I hate the free-to-play business model. I would much prefer to even pay $5 and just be able to play the game,
Yeah, so I think at a heart, if you're not paying for a game, I don't quite mind so much most of the time. I play Fallout Shelter fairly regularly, and that one does have the time management mechanic, because your rooms only ping out stuff every so often, and I had to send my characters off to a mission, and that took 3 hours to get there. Then I got to do the mission. That's going to take them 3 hours to get back. That's time they're not defending the base. That doesn't bother me so much as a game like Simpsons Tapped Out, where you get through the initial, here's how the game works, and then you're immediately dumped into, it's going to take 10 hours to build this building.
Yeah.
And the only way to speed that up is to purchase the stuff in-game. If you're going to do those kind of games, you have to eke out, you still have to kind of cater to the people that are not going to necessarily spend money all the time, and not make it so annoying that immediately pushes them off. Like the Simpsons Tapped Out and the Futurama game both do this. The only way to play those games is to wait egregious amounts of time. Fallout Shelter, you're waiting 5-10 minutes between each thing that pings out, which is an acceptable amount of time. I can dip in, I can dip out, and I don't think it's a big of an issue. Some of them are just way too aggressive in their time limits.
And the interesting thing for me is, there's a certain category of player of these games who A, will never ever spam their friends for you, B, will never ever pay you real money, and those people are those gamers, we used to say they're less than worthless to us, because they effectively only cost us money for them to play our game, because there's server costs, sense. Right? When you're playing Fallout, that isn't really being run on your phone. That's syncing to a back-end server somewhere. So if you uninstall your game, you can reinstall it and you'll continue to be able to play. So they're costing money, and we really did. We had mechanics in our game where we would try to wheedle those people out of the game as soon as possible because we didn't want them playing past the easy learning curve. Because why would we? They're never going to pay us money or give us any benefit. Why would we want them playing the game? Now, the argument is that having the AMU stat, the average monthly user stat, was a good way to get new players in because it would float you up to the top of searches and it would make you more likely to appear in the game's page and stuff. But realistically, that was no value to us. So it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, and like I said, if you could make... Because, I played plenty of Facebook games, and they always eventually get to a point where you... Like, just for someone like me that's not going to spend money on a microtransaction, they eventually get to a point, but I probably already got 5-6 hours worth of playtime out of it.
Yeah.
But when it's just, out of the gate, give us money, to play this game, those I don't like. And there's been a couple times, like, I played Pokemon Go. I've bought, Pokeballs and lures and stuff to make the game slightly easier, because I don't play it that often. But I've only dumped maybe $10 into that game the entire time. And if it's a free-to-play game, I'm more inclined to spend $1 or $2 here or there than, especially like, and this is separate from like a microtransaction and like a $60 game. I don't necessarily mind the microtransactions that are free to play because that's how they have to make their money. Just don't make the game so annoying that you're forcing me to play the money. Let me pay the money because I want to play the game.
I've paid like $5 for virtual currency, which just because I've had enough fun out of a game, I'm like, do you know what? You can have my $5 because I've played this game for 10 hours or 20 hours. I'm happy to give you $5. Thank you for making the game. That's one way to look at it. I certainly have never paid $5 for a game in the first, 3 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour even. So, yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, and I'm sure that it's very hard to, strike that perfect balance, but it can be done. But it's really annoying when they do it badly.
So I guess we got to make a move on. So, my good friend Rob Acrobat has said that he is not a big fan of escort quests in games. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's really annoying. Gary's dying in the video. I'm guessing he's choking, but I can't help him because he's literally half a planet away. I'm good. When they're done, this is another one. When they're done poorly, they're just annoying as all get out. Because the idea is you're already playing a hard game, and if people are shooting at me, I don't want to have to worry about another stupid AI controlled thing that doesn't want to get shot. One that I think gets brought up a lot improperly with this, I think, was Resident Evil 5, where you had a bunch of escort missions where you're trying to escort the president's daughter through like the levels. I didn't mind those so much because when like battles and stuff happened, generally she would hide in something and she wouldn't get hurt.
Cool.
Like she got out of the way. But if I'm playing a game and like I've got squad members and stuff, if one of them dies, I got to restart the level. I don't like that because I have to I'm dependent upon a video game's AI logic to make sure that they're not making stupid decisions. And
you've totally hit the nail on the head because there's so many different things that can happen. There's the NPC can fight and is too aggressive and therefore gets killed, so it'll run or fly off to a mob that you wouldn't even bother because he's not going to aggro you.
Don't run into that group of 20 guys with big giant guns.
And they're miles away, and you're like, oh, I won't worry about them because they're outside of aggro range, so why would I? And the NPC just, go, mobs, and runs over. There's that.
Yes.
And then there's the fact that the NPC can be incredibly slow through phases of the escort task where nothing's happening. So, you're like, geez, because the guy's just, you can sprint. Why can't the NPC sprint? Because you're just hanging around. And the other side of that is I've played games where you get attacked and the NPC doesn't get attacked, but you're dealing with this mob of baddies, and the NPC just carries on walking on the predetermined path, and then you fail the mission because they went out of range, and you're like, yeah, but I couldn't keep up because I'm being attacked. They can be a lot of fun if they're done well. I've done some really good escort missions in the old expansion for Star Wars Galaxies, the space expansion, where there was serious peril because you're escorting like a really big ship that's easy to hit, and it's really good fun. There can be some, these are the escort missions where the ship isn't going to stop for anything because that's the story. It's going to try and get to its destination, and you have to stop the bad guys from blowing it up. So there's a damage meter, and there's a time, there's damage, and they can be a lot of fun. But I agree, they have done badly more often than they're done well.
Yeah, TIE Fighter had that quite a bit, where it's like, protect this big giant ship.
Yeah.
I don't mind those. They make sense in the game. Or if the escort mission doesn't make sense in the game, like, we're going to do this just to give you, to make the level harder or whatever. Overall, unless there's a good reason in game, I don't like them. I think they're there just to annoy you as a player. It's a shitty mechanic.
Ross from Slack, one of the nicest people I've ever met, it says when saving takes too long or there's no quick save option. Couldn't agree more. Obviously, some games don't have a save function, and that's fine. If you make a conscious effort to have save points throughout the level and you design the level so that when you walk over this mark on the floor, that's your next save point, totally fine with that. But if you give the option to save, then give the option to quick save, because nobody wants to have to click through menus to save a game. Whack F5 is the motto here.
Yeah, and I'm more inclined. This I think is a modern first world gaming problem compared to like older games, because I understand why they had to have specific areas that you would save, because they're just saving a bunch of flags off and doing that. Nowadays, we have hard drives of pretty decent size, so there's no good reason why you can't just quick save stuff off. And like you said, if you allow the player to just quickly save just about whenever, why not add the option for a quick save? Especially if it's a game where like you have auto saving going on. This is not a dig at Bethesda, because you can do quick saves whenever you want. But where you have a game where if I hit checkpoints and I can move back to that checkpoint, why not just save my game? Like, allow me to quick save a game. Now, I can kind of understand some games like platformers, like you don't want to have people spamming quick save so that they, like, before a really difficult jump, they're saving immediately before it. But especially story-based games, just let me save wherever I'm at. I don't want to have to go back to a hub to save. I totally
agree. And I don't know why you wouldn't do that. If you're allowing the player to save at any point, just let them quick save. Just implement that, for God's sake.
Yes. And kind of going along with that, Frederick's point of unskippable intros to boss fights, and along with that, having shitty places to save when you have to do those. So there's plenty of games where you have to sit through the intro to a boss fight, but then you can't quick save, so if you die, you have to go back to your last save point, then go through that boss intro again, or worst case, play through that entire level again. There's been a couple games I've had where you die in the boss, you only save at the beginning of every level, you have to go back to the beginning of the level, play through the whole level again to get to the boss. And that is enough to make me just say, you know what, I don't need to spend time on this game.
And the latest Batman, the latest gen Batman games, Arkham Origins and Asylum, were terrible for that. Were terrible for giving you a really hard boss fight, but giving you an introductory video to the boss before you had to do it, and you have to, I've died, now I have to sit through another 90-second intro video for this damn boss. That is Shadow of War. Every time you come upon a captain, he has to get his little quip in. Why do you even play Shadow of War? Like, everything
I don't know why.
Everything we've said on this list is in Shadow of War.
This is in Shadow of War. Don't play Shadow of War. It's a horrible, horrible game. That's why I immediately jumped on Mario Odyssey, because it got me out of playing Shadow of War.
I don't blame you. So the last thing we've got here, we're getting on in time. I try to keep these to 45 minutes, but we've run over again. But that's fine. We like waffling on.
We're only like 5 minutes over. Jesus.
It's from Freak. And he says QWERTY keyboard configuration for keyboards that aren't QWERTY. We don't even have this problem, so
this is not a problem I've ever run into. I'm not downplaying that. So let's change that.
I am totally downplaying
okay,
it.
fine.
And just buy a QWERTY keyboard for gaming. You know, I've got an expensive mechanical gaming keyboard that I use. Just take your gaming seriously, damn it, and buy a keyboard.
This are you pulling the "This is America, you should speak American"?
Well, I don't live in America and I don't speak American.
I know, but are you pulling that card? This is a computer. You should speak QWERTY.
I'm not pulling that card, and I really mean this. I totally would never say you should have a QWERTY keyboard for writing your code in every day. Whatever's familiar to you. But if you're gonna game at a reasonable level, then you should have reasonable level gaming peripherals. Sorry.
So I would probably take this a step further and say it's really annoying when you can't do your own custom key bindings.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on a computer, I should be able to remap the keys. Having done a little bit of game development, it really should not be that hard to remap keys. Consoles I kind of understand a little bit, but if I have a keyboard, I should be able to remap and say, you know what, I don't want fire on space, I want it on P.
Yeah.
Like that is a config option, and there's no reason you can't do that. Or buy a QWERTY keyboard. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounded incredible. I'll stand by what I said. What the hell, right? I put my foot in my mouth. I'll just leave it in there. It's fine. It's all good. It's all good.
It's nice to know that you're an American at heart, Gary.
That's painful. I'm going to be in America next week, so I don't want to say anything too bad, or who knows what'll happen. So, but that's been a great episode. I managed to get really angry about the most insubstantial things in the world. So, woohoo! 2 thumbs up for that.
That's what the internet's for.
It is what the internet's for. You can find every episode we've ever done on jerkstalkgames.com, including a way to get an invite into our Slack channel, which is actually completely redundant now that Slack can handle that for you. But that's fine. We leave it there. And you can follow me on Twitter at GHGWH. You can follow Chris on Twitter at DragonmanTank. And you can follow us both on Twitter at jerkstalkgames. So thank you very much for listening. And
don't forget to save your game.